welcome to the next video in my AI fiction writing series. It's somewhat of a tutorial, but it's more loose than I think a normal tutorial. But for this one, I'm going to just show my full AI fiction stack and then how I connect all the apps and services that I'm currently using. There's plenty of ways to skin this one, and I have, over the past few years, settled on this. It's sort of the best fit Goldilocks scenario with me, and I'm excited to get started on my actual writing. So until then, I do want to kind of keep this channel open because I do want to solicit feedback on more of a meta perspective. So basically, what I currently do, and it is a fire hose. I use Word for my word processor for virtually everything, and Notepad's my go-to scratch pad for basically anything. Sticky notes. I use Excel for characters, monsters, factions, economy, items, magic, sociopolitical systems, and plot. And then anything with a number goes in there too. So RPG data, all the data. I have listings in somewhat tabular form. Some of them are multiple tables, like this one. It allows for basically virtually infinite columns. If you're doing a row record, it's virtually infinite columns, more columns than you'll ever need, and it's not going to be too gripey about it. I recommend you keep them as flat files and not do too many formulas in them. Like, I know a lot of people like to have the lookups work, and the question is, like, Excel gets to a point where you need to like trade this off and say, is it worth this feature for how much memory it's going to cost and how much processing time it is? Because one thing that kind of stinks about Excel is it does not have a lot of economy from like new CPUs. It buckets what it buckets, and it doesn't really improve too much for what you'd see with like those nasty new like Intel i9 chips. I just purchased a new desktop, and I have the i9 chip. I believe that's what they're called. I'll check that. And I am noticing no real difference with Excel versus my laptop, which I'm on currently. But yeah, this is my Bible for all the data. That would be too much to put into a Word file, because Word, is a script, it goes up and down, whereas you have a spreadsheet, you can quickly make associations and things so much better than you can do in a script. And now that AI co-work agents have gotten to the point where they can read this stuff, even multiple table sheets, I'm sold on it. It does get to the point where I do want to put this into a database, and I haven't gotten to that point yet because I'm not at the finished stage yet. You could use Microsoft Access. If you're an Access user and you have a database already, it might be worth your time to research Power BI. That's Microsoft's new application that basically stitches together spreadsheets, and it's a little easier to do dashboards. Here's an example of a dashboard to do for a separate service, because I don't have my writing one yet, but this is something I use for sports betting. So it's something that basically takes like pivotable fields, like a filter here, and you can quickly click on it and get like an update and get all the graphics, all the charts to update as well, which is what a pivot table does. It basically takes, and these all are different sheets, and they're all conjoined together through key fields. So it's a little heady if you're just an Excel user, but if you're Access, this will look very familiar to you. I found it has been worth the time to learn. There's a huge rabbit hole with it. They're not Excel formulas, and a lot of people try to go into this, which is basically all the sheets, and say, oh, I've used Excel, I can Excel my way through this with formulas. They're a little more of like an actual script. And this is an example of like a reasonable size script that you could probably expect to see based off of like maybe a couple filters or a condition, and it would look something like this. But you can see it is actually a script. It's not just like a plug and play formula. And I would say like I use Copilot a lot for like dictating what this will look like. So it's not that hard to learn if you have Copilot and you know how to ask. I can do this in a separate video because it is quite an iceberg, but it does give you very nice, very speedy and responsive dashboards. A little better than, actually much better than a pivot table in Excel. And I would say Access too. Access, I'd say it's the point where they might even be close to deprecating it, because Microsoft is making a lot of moves to basically simplify their portfolio of software. But it's been I think sort of working towards this, because this does a good job of also like putting everything together. But as you load it in, transform data, you're able to do a lot of things to like a sticky like Excel file by like adding columns, removing columns. So if you have like headers that are like 4 rows long, you can cut those out and rename them as you will. So anyway, that's a little brief overview of BI, but this is something I'm going to be using for databasing. I just haven't gotten there yet to show anything with this project. For mapping, I don't use the popular browser-based ones that basically have a lot of objects. Photoshop does objects pretty well. You can put it into like folders, so it's not too bad. But like here's an example of my world map where I have, you know, roughly 3 books worth of content. It's about 30 cities. I've had things come and go, but this has been pretty sticky so far. But you can see like you can collapse so many objects under folders here. So working in here is actually not too bad. It's a bit of a learning curve, and so I might do a follow-up video on this, how I constructed this. It's not the most complicated map. You could certainly do overlays like countries, but I purposely made my countries very simple to understand because I have to explain it in prose in the book, and I can't just see like, while I can show this world map in the very beginning, it's probably not going to be in color. I have to assume that it's not going to be in color. So just little things like that. So if anyone had any requests for like how do I make like countries, I might be able to help. I'm not like a power user of Photoshop, even though I've used it for about 25 years. I basically use it for what I need to, so I'm not the biggest expert in that, which is why I haven't focused really on this program as much to showcase. So I'm going to move on. I use Premiere as well for video editing. It's the best application, I think, for dragging and dropping individual video files and audio files, taking them apart, stitching them together. That to me is the gold standard. I'm sure there's other like competitors out there. I haven't really sourced those. I basically just use Adobe because I've used it forever. But from what I can tell, the newer stuff like Canva and the browser-based stuff just doesn't hold a candle to Adobe right now. And Adobe has good generative AI where within the program itself, you can it does an okay job, but now they're doing like plugins where you can like generatively fill things. The Adobe suite has potential if you're into this sort of thing. And you might be saying, well, this mapping program is great, but it costs $20 a month. Adobe isn't cheap, but if let's say you're using this or have, let's say, a graphic artist who's also doing like character portraits, it might be worth your time. And I do my own character portraits. I use Midjourney. I, of course, would commission an artist for anything that would go into my actual book. But for me, like I'm a visual learner, and like if I don't see my character, if I don't look them directly in the eyes, then some of the times I have trouble writing for them. So I have my Midjourney profile is kind of ridiculous. I started it like 3 years ago, but I have like hundreds of thousands of images. So it's something I've curated over like 3 years. It does do personalization, and I've been able to get like R-rated stuff like blood and suggestive themes like drugs into the actual images, and it doesn't gripe about it. Sometimes it won't turn it into videos, but some of the stuff that I've made 2 years ago that it didn't video before is starting to now, and I think it's because of all the others catching up. It's my personal favorite as far as aesthetic. It's not the best in terms of animating video. I use Grok Imagine for video. I know there's other people that use like Kling and Seed Dance. I haven't used those, so I can't provide a good expert opinion on which one's better. Grok does a pretty good job of like staging a scene and actually doing natural voice acting and some of the blocking and editing that you would see in, let's say, a show or a movie adaptation. So I've been really enjoying Grok and Midjourney, which does a pretty good job on some videos, stitching them together in Premiere and either doing like an actual scene or a music video or just a test. I've had great results. And it even has a new feature where you take like an agent and go into an actual project, which as of course is being rolled out to other AI functions as well. With video generation, you can have quite a lengthy back and forth let's see, this one's a pretty big one. Each of these is a video. So you can basically take like, you can click on the video and have it do like, this is the image I want to go with this one. And it sticks the landing. It doesn't like regenerate the actors. You have to sort of tell it multiple times to do it. And it's not perfect, but it puts together the scene pretty well. But you can see like this is like they can be quite complex. And this one is complex because I'm getting a lot of videos out of it. I wouldn't say it's anything that I would put on to like my first AI movie. It's mostly just internal assets for myself, but I do have some concept music videos that I'll get to. I just re-upped my subscription to ElevenLabs to fine-tune the character voices. And I would recommend that. V3 is not bad. They just came out with V3 where you can stage multiple actors, you can have vocalisms, you can have like not that you'd want to have too many but if you have, you can have like coughs and like people if they take a swallow of like something they're drinking, you can have it be like in the middle of what they're saying, and it sounds pretty natural. It's not gonna win any Oscars or anything, but it's not bad. And I obsess about like all I really need is to hear their voice, and I can somehow sort of connect the dots. If I hear it in my head, that's one thing, but being able to see the prose or hear the prose in the exact voice that you want, let's say acted not the best, but at least indicative of what they're saying, I found to be incredible. And music, I've always used. Music's pretty good. I use it mostly for the instrumental voices. For lyrics, I found Suno to be better in some cases, but I pretty much use the both of those two to generate music videos or generate the audio portion. And I haven't quite, since I haven't finished any prose yet, I haven't really dived too deep into the voices. So I can't comment on how great it is in terms of like sustaining itself for a whole book. But I'll say the tests I've done have been pretty positive so far. So I'm just gonna kind of go with it for now, and I'll update as I notice any changes to it. And now I'm getting to the AI programs I'm using. I use Claude Cowork right now as my dedicated world expert. It can go into the folder and commit it all to its chat memory, provided it's under 30 megabytes, I believe. And then it can answer questions. It can backfill in spreadsheets if you have like a lot of iceberg stuff that you really kind of know in the back of your head, but you just, and it's like hundreds of items. It would take hours to do. It can do a pretty good job provided it has the right context. So it's a bit of a learning experience, and I use it every day, and I'm learning every day how to do better with whatever upgrade it's on right now. It seems like every day I load it, like you can update it to some version. So that's what I use Claude Cowork for. Grok is a popular R-rated choice. I use it to generate a lot of the music lyrics, and it's pretty good for references too. And I like its prose when it's like explaining things to me. If it's like an interesting subject, I might just switch to Grok for a change of pace, because frankly it can get a little tiring listening to the same agent tell you that, like in the same exact tone and cadence. And I have Gemini in here for the same reason. I figure using something that was search for general inquiry and reference is probably reasonable, so that's what I use it for. And then MS Copilot as well, Microsoft, for sort of a Gemini second opinion maybe. Or I kind of know what to look for with this one. So I guess it's like your usage kind of varies depending on these, and mine have changed over the years. But if you've used it enough, you can sort of tell which one is talking. So the one good thing about this one is you can select the entire conversation, like not necessarily select all. You still have to at least kind of go through the top, copy paste it with click and dragging the mouse, but you can at least copy the entire thing at once. Because the one thing that I recommend is have something where you're keeping track of these, because if you do extend your AIs beyond just one, you lose the ability to search. You can say, where did I look for that like one oddball music lyric, and I can't remember which AI it is, let's say, and I have to deal with like 6 different searches, not all of them indexed at the very beginning. So if it was something that's from a long while back, it might be difficult. So I do recommend having hardy record keeping for what you want to keep in terms of, let's say, meta discussions. I have a file called ideas I keep right in root. I basically have date stamped headers with what I'm working on at the time, and then just generally keeping it in order. So what I've done today was just copy pasted the whole conversation from Cowork as I've been going down it. But the file's getting to be quite a lot, and this has been mostly just to create creative sessions with AI. And it's been a long time coming. I've had it can be easy to just like kind of scoot stuff away on your desktop or something, but I'd say just commit to a file and you're good. So highly recommend that so you can find stuff if you do indeed need to go back, and I do all the time. And the other thing is I have multiple chat windows open, and the thing that these don't do is multiple windows. So I found that sometimes it's like I don't want to commit to this cowork conversation yet because I'm still reading it, and I don't want to move forward with let's say another thing because I want to save my place on what I'm reading. That's why I have like 6 AIs that I have as query partners. So the last thing on my stack is VS Code. And at this point, you can pretty much pick your coding agent, and I think they're all going to do basically the same job. I like VS Code because it's sort of built like a pretty sturdy application. There's a huge amount of settings and options, a lot of options in terms of what agent to select. You can select your agent. It's a nominal fee. They have increased in price. You have GitHub Copilot, which I think is $20 a month now. But it's not like you're shelling out like $100, let's say, for a max package because I want to get the coding involved. I can't comment on Codex. I haven't used Codex. I just have stuck to this. I've been using this for about 2 years now, and it's serviceable. They use at least the penultimate version of Claude. Attest to, or I've used it as voice acting casting for ElevenLabs, where I've said, like, I've attached a picture of the character, given sort of their style notes, and said what kind of prompt would I use to do a custom voice. The one thing I do in here that I didn't show were the custom voices. You can go to create voice, and like a lot of the stuff that you've probably seen, you can copy paste a prompt with in basically a short summary. And I've been able to generate about 20-30 of these so far, and I like the results, like I said. But AI helped me. I believe this was a Cowork project that helped me cast the voices themselves. Cowork can stage a scene. It can basically do help you set up like a Grok video. It can do passable scaffolding for the interiority and the dialogue and everything else that connects those, and it does a pretty good job. It's not at the point where I would where I'm ready to do my draft with it yet, but I am going to draft my entire book with it because I like to just sort of, I'm very big on pacing. So for me, like, I like to see like the full thing written out. I'm getting better at reading outlines, but like, so for me, like, I like to just stage the scene. The other thing that I use Cowork for, it does a really good job of staging scenes, and I know a lot of people have tried this before. Fable 5 is getting pretty good at getting passable scaffolding. I kind of prefer just dialogue only. The interiority is important. It's not quite at the point where the interiority sounds quite right yet. So, but it's great for dialogue, and it's great for doing like little videos in Grok that sort of stage what you have in your mind. So it's great for visualization. It is amazing for canon wikis. If I was to say, give me a comprehensive source and read these 100-page world-building Bibles, it can do so. And it does a very good job of like systemically telling you conditionally what you can and can't do in your world, provided you give it the correct inputs and good data. Which comes back to the point where I said like filling in the iceberg is probably advisable because the AI will have that to work with. And it can probably tell that it's boilerplate because it's its own script, and it can say, oh, I generated this, whereas this was human generated, and put more focus on it. I feel that that's what it tries to do. And you, of course, could ask it to prioritize different things depending on what you have as strengths in your files. For me, my strength was my Excel file. And so I backfilled the Excel file and said, this is the most canon, followed by World Building Bible. A quick example of World Building Bible is it's got I'm keeping a fairly close leash on it. It is a little AI heavy, and I'm slowly going to go through it as I'm writing page one probably, and start taking things out as it fits the situation, which is why I want to get the draft done, and which is why I think getting it staged with the scaffolding will be sufficient for this. I will report on progress when that's done in a separate video. AI does a great job nowadays of reviewing your work. I've dropped in drafts before and gotten pretty good critical analysis, and analysis like from a fan who would be interested in picking out the details that they had questions on, that the world building didn't make sense. That I think it does the best, because, well, that and the Canon Wiki, it's basically doing the same thing. It's an exhaustive review of your work, and you can tell it to frame it like an agent, score it. You can also have it give comparable works, comparable characters, so you can review what's been done before, study it, and adapt it for your own work. The other thing that I've been able to use with AI is difficult dialogue. I have a character that doesn't use the letter E, so writing lipograms for like dialogue, it does a very admirable job. And then things like accents, like a Cockney accent, that would be a nightmare to write. And honestly, like, it's not, I'm on the fence whether to do it or not. So like for me, like, it can do it, but like I'm not a big fan of reading accents, and I know a lot of people aren't either. But if you wanted to make the next cloud atlas, you definitely could with AI, a lot easier. But I, for one, do not like having to purposely miswrite words. So the things I had Claude suggest were ways to sort of break, which is what I'm going to be trying now, which are ways to sort of break writer's block, as well as, let's say you want to just improve on your craft. I found that gamifying it is a great way to use AI responsibly and not waste anyone's time, let's say. But these were some that I found that I'm going to directly try, and it told me it can do it, and I have no doubt that I'll be able to get this to work. If I don't like what I see, I'm fairly certain we can fix it. So I will, so word for word, this might not be the best in your situation, but I had this look through exactly what my setup was and give me ways that it could gamify it. So I would recommend you try it. If you have a similar situation like me, but maybe a different priority, it might be better at some things than others, but these are the ones that it recommended for me. So this one I liked, the voice Turing test. This one I liked, the voice Turing test, where you write, basically at some point you need to submit a draft to Cowork so it can understand what your prose is like. And then Cowork can write passages trying to tell if its prose versus your prose is different. So this is something I want to just try as like a litmus test, so I can get a better understanding of how the AI works. And I might be able to pick up on tells. So that's something I'll do in a future video. This one I really liked, the war game. You can pretty much play Civilization with your AI partner and do like a turn-based strategy game. I'm going to try that and probably have a wonderful time. So I will keep I'll keep everyone informed on how that one goes. The Blackout Room is next. It's basically just dialogue improv where you go back and forth and just basically just improv, which I haven't tried improv with any kind of improv yet. So that one I'm very interested in. Who Said It? You have to guess who the speaker is. I think that's interesting because you're testing the AI's knowledge, and then it can also help you pick in holes in your own knowledge if your files are getting a little heavy. The next one is Exquisite Corpse with a Chaos Die, which I haven't played. I know it's like you kind of writing I guess a paragraph. So it'll do paragraphs with constraints with like a randomizer. And Excel's very good at randomizers, but AI can do the randomizing itself. And what I think AI does better is conditional randomizing. So it can actually pick something that might be a little bit themed as opposed to something that's a complete random guess. Because anyone can do a complete randomizer. And I know those that are out there, and those can work for prompts, but you might have to hit the reroll button a lot of times to get something that even makes remote sense, especially if you have a giant iceberg. So I would say, like, if you can have the AI say, like, here's like a good murder mystery for you, and I can write you very good characters and items, and contextually it works. So I'm gonna try like playing this game proper and see how it goes. The next one, the scene slot machine, basically writing the entire scene instead of making it a game, just saying read this scene. I would conditionally randomize this and see how it goes. I have been playing with this before, and it does a fairly good job, but it cheats and it takes shortcuts. Even Fable 5, and it'll say I'll take it. If it takes something to like multiple agents, it does do a lot of workarounds. So even if you have like a giant project, for example, I had this thing backfill chunks of your spreadsheet, it might cheat. If it says that it's offloading the job to 8 agents, it means that those 8 agents are basically separate instances and they might be duplicating their own work. So I've seen that before. So that's helped me sharpen my pencil and say, I should probably clean this up or clean that up. All right, and the last game is Compendium Seance. This one I really want to try because I have this old file from 5 years ago with a lot of what I would say is gobbledygook. It's a lot of fun, spur of the moment stuff that I just envisioned this character saying, but it makes no sense. Yet what AI does well, I think, is human generated stuff. It just doesn't know what to do with garbage. Yet in context, the gobbledygook is somewhat contextual based off of my right-brained ethereal knowledge, which is now a little bit more connected with Fable 5. So I am going to try and go into Compendium proper on its own with Fable 5 and see what it thinks. It might be a complete mess. But and I think mileage may vary and will vary depending on the exact content that the writer has in there. So I'll let you know how mine goes. But yeah, that's about it. I want to thank everyone for watching if you got this far. I have more on my website. I'm still repurposing it to sort of focus on the book side of things. I use it for multiple things, but what I'm going to try and do on it is host some templates. So you can basically take the folder I'm working in and drop in your own stuff. I'll probably put in like a README Word file. This will take me a little bit to construct because while I could use AI to help with that, this is one I'm gonna probably take a little time with on. But I will have some templates in here. And if you wanted to keep track on any of the projects I'm currently working on, there's a mailing list as well. But those are my 2 websites, and I'll link those in the description as well. So anyway, again, thank you, and I hope everyone has a great day.